Welcome to lesson 4 in this series. We are going to be talking about triad substitutions, and we're going to be talking about two substitutions over major chords and minor chords. Actually, we're going to be covering one substitution in this lesson, and then we'll cover another one in the next one. So yeah, let's get right into it. Welcome to lesson 4. In this lesson, as you heard, we're going to be talking about triad substitutions, and we started talking about triads in lesson 2. We talked about triad inversions in lesson 3, and at the end of lesson 3 I showed you my favorite triad inversion, which is this. This triad inversion is actually called the second inversion. So for the key of C, the 4-finger configuration like that, if you start the chord on the 3rd, that's the 1st, 3rd, and 5th. Remember Nashville numbering system 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you start the inversion on the 3rd, that's what's called the first inversion. And if you start the chord on the 5th, that's called the second inversion. I really like the second inversion. So moving forward from inversions, the substitution that I'm going to show you variations on is called the second. You will see it in music written as C2 or E2 or whatever. That 2 comes from, remember the Nashville numbering system? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it comes from the 2. So if I play the C chord and I add the 2 in it, like that, that becomes C2. The reason for these substitutions is that they make your chords sound more elegant. If you play the raw chord like that, it is passable. But if you play like that, it has a lot more sophistication. What this channel aims to do, among other things, is to help you figure out how to make your sound more sophisticated and more rounded out for a worship setting. So there you have it. So if we were playing the chord of F, very simply, put it in the middle there. If we're playing the chord of G, then back to C. Now, I usually take this substitution one step further. I take away the 3rd. So 1, 2, 3, that's the 3rd. I take away the 3rd and I play it like that. I always keep my second substitution. So this substitution is even more sophisticated than the straight C. So we started out with a C. We'll put the 2 in the middle and then take the 3rd away. And just have it like that. So on the chord of F, take the 3rd away. Then G. Back to the C. So how about with other chords like D? So D, D2, take the 3rd away, and just keep it like that. Now, let me show you inversions on the chord substitution. So with C, C2 like that, if we invert it, this is what it looks like. Do you see that? So that's another way of holding it. So you can hold it like that. Remember, we can flip notes. We can start it on the C. can even start it on the 2. So that fingering is difficult for most people, so I usually just use my thumb to press 2 notes. It drives many music teachers nuts. It drives many piano playing purists nuts, but that's a way to hold it. And then when you turn it up, you can do it like that. So using those variations, thinking about that, think about the chord of F. So F, we can turn it down, we can not turn it down, we can invert the substitution that way, and we can even go like that. So moving from one chord, C, to F. Did you see that? C, C2, F2. See, it's F. Now, that's the first substitution that I will show you. Now I'm going to show you a minor chord substitutions. Minor chords are very interesting because they give you a lot of room to play. So remember in one of the previous lessons I told you about the minor chords 6, 2, and 3. And we talked about the 6th minor chord. The 6th minor chord is very interesting because it has the same scale as the 1. So if you look at A minor, I do several substitutions on minor chords because they're very interesting. I usually typically play the minor 7th. So you remember 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Because I'm a poser, I sometimes like to play my chords with all 5 fingers. So I have the A in the bottom, the 7th, and then the A minor below. And as I was looking at this chord, A minor 7, because I prefer the sound of the minor 7th to the straight up minor. I started to see that in my right hand I'm holding all the notes of the C triad in the A minor chord. Did you see that? If I take the A away and I keep the A in the bottom, it still sounds like A minor, and it can be a substitute for A minor. And then one day I asked myself, what if I played C on my right hand and A on my left hand? What would that sound like? Sounds very interesting. And it's a far distance from the straight A minor. A minor 7, take the A away, and do the second substitution of, inversion of C. And that made for a very interesting sound. Then one day I decided to push it further and I said, what if I use the substitutions on C on the right hand with the minor chord on my left hand? What would that sound like? And here's what happened. Did you see that? I took the C2 chord on my right hand and I kept the A on the left, and that's what came out. So like I said, it's quite a distance from a straight A minor, A minor 7, C on the right hand, left hand A, C2 on the right hand, A on the left hand. So like I said, the reason for all these substitutions is to make your playing sound more sophisticated. And you can do this quite simply without necessarily having to play lots of notes on the keyboard. Just with a little bit of spacing and a little bit of substitution and inversions, you're well on your way to making your keyboard playing sound more sophisticated. So I'm going to show you something really interesting about relative minors now. See, if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, if you count 3 notes down, 1, 2, 3 in the scale, 1, 2, 3, you will always hit the relative minor of the key. The relative minor is called the relative minor because it has the same scale as the major chord. For every relative minor, you can use the substitutions up at the top. So let's try F. Let's go to F. Count down, 1, 2, 3. What is there? That's D minor. So F, you can play F at the top and D at the bottom. And that would be a credible D minor substitution. What about G? G, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3. That makes for a very interesting exercise. How about in the key of D? What is the relative minor of D? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. It's up there. Or it's down there. 1, 2, 3. So D, D2. How about B minor? We can do that same thing. So G. The minor is right there. How about A? A is where it starts to get really cool. So A, count 3 down, 1, 2, 3. F sharp minor. So F sharp minor, you can play the A on top of it or even an A2. That loop that I played, that sequence that I just played, B minor, E minor, F sharp minor, B, I played it all with substitution. E minor, I'm playing a G on the top. Playing A on the top, F sharp minor on the bottom, then D2. Don't worry about the notes that I'm playing in between, just listen to the chord. And so there you have it. This is a really interesting and powerful substitution that I would like you to take to the next level. And so for your homework, and you're going to see it at the end of the video, for your homework, I would like you to work on all your substitutions for all the conceivable chords that you can come up here with, mostly in the key of C, key of G, key of D, and key of A. I've not given you the answers for the key of A because I'd like you to work it out yourself. So what is the 1 chord, what's the 4 chord, what's the 5 chord, what's the 6 minor, 2 minor, and 3 minor in the key of A. You'll have to build the scale, build the triads, and then build the substitutions on top of it. And if you have any questions, always come back to this video, rewind it, go back and forward, and look for the substitutions, because I think that it will be an excellent tool for you to use in your keyboard playing. Okay, we'll see you in lesson 5.